Welcome, Duncan. Welcome to my online expert interview, Doing Business in China Beyond 2022. So you are the head of strategic partnership at Focus SB, which is based in East Sussex. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and the company?
Yeah, sure. So welcome and thank you for having me on. If I just give you a little bit of background on Focus SB to begin with, and then I'll introduce myself. So Focus SB, we are a manufacturer of luxury wiring accessories. So in layman's terms, light switches, power sockets, and any electrical accessory fitting that you have in the house or commercial property. We've been established for 44 years. Our target markets are high-end luxury residential properties and high-end hospitality and commercial properties. We also do a lot of heritage projects such as castle refurbishments, stately homes in the UK, etc., and a number of projects in the Far East that come under all three categories. We're very proud to say that we are the only European factory with CCC license to import directly into China, certified by the CQC inside China. We started that journey in 2017. To this day, we are still the only manufacturer in our sector to be able to do this.
Wow, so it sounds like Focus SB is doing really well in China. I also read that recently has been featured with the new Harrods tea room in Shanghai. So it's amazing that you get that kind of public exposure. So how has all this started? How did it start?
So our journey into China started. We visited China possibly around 2012, 2013, and we originally went to look for some components. However, we were at that point presented with an opportunity to come back into China, and after speaking to 2 or 3 people, we were given some advice. Actually, you should be looking to come into China rather to sell your product rather than source a component or two. Mm-hmm. So we flipped the whole experience on its head. And we decided, okay, let's have a look at this. Let's do some market research. We went around, traveling around the country, speaking to people, potential clients. We were a potential distributor at the time, and really gaining market feedback for a good number of years before we decided to enter.
So you did your research first. That is very much as we normally recommend, to your homework first before just jumping into the market, even though you feel intuitively there's a good market, but you need to know where to start and how do you get into the target market. So did you have a Chinese partner? How did you sort of get into the market?
Yeah, so we were presented with the opportunity to speak to a very experienced gentleman who has experience in our marketplace in China, through an introduction from a mutual colleague. From that conversation, we then said, okay, well, let's have a look and explore the market. So we went around exploring the market. So we took a number of years researching the market, and we took a long time talking and selecting and spending time with potential partners to select the right partner for us to enter the market.
Again, that's a very good way you've done it, to search for partner properly. Even though you had a recommendation, you still took the time to find the right partner. So I want to talk about the Chinese culture. You are familiar with guanxi and the face, all these important concepts. What are your own experience in this?
Yeah, so from my own experience, I come from and live in a town here in the UK where we have a lot of foreign students come to stay, and having grown up in that. So coming from a town where you're socialising with a lot of different cultures from an early age, you understand that actually you have to build a relationship and rapport with different cultures, and you have to understand the way that the different cultures are and what means certain things to them. So applying that to a business level, we engage with the Department for International Trade, we engage with the CBTC, and through experience of visiting, learning that actually we have to engage with the culture. We have to make sure that our brand is aligned with the target market that we're looking at in China. So with doing that, we spent a lot of time building personal relationships with our distributors, spent a lot of time building personal relationships with what was at the time potential clients, understanding their culture, understanding that a face-to-face culture is very important. The personal relationship in the Chinese business community is very, very important, and taking the time to build those relationships, whether it's via going for dinner, whether it's chatting regularly on the platforms, using platforms to chat such as WeChat, etc., that they're familiar with, so that we're really sort of ingraining ourselves into the Chinese culture before we take the step as a business.
Did you have to drink a lot of Mai Tai and sing karaoke?
I'll admit to I've done both.
Yeah, and did you notice the difference, regional difference, or for example, in northern China, the culture and compared to that of the southern provinces?
Yeah, that the geography of China. So in the southern China, around Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Zhuhai, etc., it's very much more a westernized Chinese culture. So they're very used to sort of Western customs, etc. However, you still have to blend that with the Chinese customs. So it's more familiar, but it's still a step out of the comfort zone. That was quite easy to adapt to. Our head office is in Shanghai. Shanghai obviously being very multicultural for a Chinese city. It's quite a natural. It's a natural relationship formed by having the background of the Chinese culture. We found as we go further north, it becomes very much more formalized. Much more an old school Chinese culture, and that sort of falls in line with being the political centre and the traditional centre.
You also probably have to drink more in the north.
So.
Yes. What about the sort of people side? Do you have your own staff in China?
So as a business, we have a distributor in China, exclusive distributor. Those staff are the distributor staff. However, we allow them to act as the Focus SB staff, or act as Focus SB. What we've spent a lot of time doing and realizing is that you have to have the local presence, and we spent a lot of time interacting, spending time with them on the ground, but also bringing them to the UK, into our factory, showing them around with our clients in the UK, understanding how we work as a business. And really, although they're not technically Focus SB employees, they have a sense that they are Focus SB employees. So we've built that really strong, tight relationship with them. With that, then we build trust together. And we have a philosophy that we move forward together. So we really treat them as though they are a Focus SB representative, and really make sure that they're looked after in that sense.
That's very important, to have a team locally to support your customer and distributors, so that the customers feel you're committed to the market, having your own people who are representing you. That's really important as well. We have recently been helping a number of clients to set up office in China. They already have people working with them in similar to your case, but then they decided to have their own sort of four walls, and then it can be representative office, it can be subsidiary, but it doesn't matter what form it is, as long as you have a dedicated team and the presence that your customer feel like you're really taking China seriously. And also they expect a fast response. They can't wait for the time difference. They want the same time zone response, right? Is that your
Yeah,
experience too?
exactly. It's about the Chinese culture is very much more advanced in it's I like to call it in the UK a prime culture with Amazon sort of thing. It's next day. Everybody wants 24 hours or instant response next day. The Chinese culture is very much more developed as technology has come in that side of things, and technology plays a greater part in their lives. Everyone's interconnected on WeChat, Tencent, Weibo, etc. So you have to strategically align with that, and you have to say, okay, if we're going to go into that territory, how do we make sure that we have that communication channel? And the way you set up, whether you have your own four walls in China or whether you have a very tight distribution partnership, is really on the individual business and what suits them best.
Absolutely.
For us, it was a very close relationship, and it was we had strong ties with who eventually became our distributor, and a very deep trusting relationship. So we sort of see that as an extension of our company. It's also about getting the details right at the beginning. Very much so about what's our responsibility, what's your responsibility, how are we going to move forward together with this, and how we're going to plan together for this, and making it feel as though you're a team together rather than a business transaction.
Yes,
that's very successful for us.
So that's part of the point you touched on is communication, to have a clear channel of communication, often, frequent, but also with the purpose, like you mentioned, you very clear expectations, responsibilities to avoid that sort of ambiguity as well. Of course, you mentioned the technology has made almost like transformed the way how business is done in China even more quickly now. So we would call it the China speed. So to match that, requires the company's commitment as well, from the management team, right? Because a lot of times the issues are not something that you can just solve. You need to make sure your team understand that the speed is needed to take that forward quickly.
Yeah, very much so. You have to align yourself with the market you're going into. If that means that you have to use a different technology or a different communication platform, and introduce the members of your team in the UK to using that platform alongside what they're used to using, of course. I really feel that that's important and what you have to do, and also that reflects back into the Chinese community that you're actually taking notice and taking care and attention to their culture as well.
Exactly. I was very impressed when I met you. You were using WeChat very frequently, and of course, your company also has a WeChat official account. Again, is another tick point that we would suggest clients to use, whether you're in B2B or B2C. It's really important to have your official Chinese digital market channels.
Yeah, we found as a business, again, through studying other brands, through market research and talking to people on the ground in China who have experience with Western brands, that really we had to create an image of ourselves that aligns with our traditional British brand image, but also reflects into the Chinese market and something that the Chinese culture, the Chinese people can reflect onto. So we engage in a specialist marketing agency with creating a territory-specific logo, territory-specific brochure, branding, really to sort of embrace the Chinese culture, but to make them feel comfortable with what they're experiencing as well, while blending it into the UK. And it's really quite an intricate process. However, we went through that and very successfully. And then over time, we're starting to change as we're becoming recognised as a brand. We're starting to change that subtly into universal branding across territories. So it's really the process of introducing the Chinese clients to focus with something they're familiar with, and then letting them accept who our brand are and moving that forward.
Your brand has, a premium because the perceived quality and also the luxury nature of it, as I read.
Yeah.
Do you feel your intellectual property, such as your design and trademarks, are well protected in China? Because that's a big concern for many companies, brands do business in China.
Yeah, our trademarks on our intellectual property, we engage with a specialist firm in London for intellectual property protection. We do that not only for the UK, not only for China, but also for any territory we go into worldwide. So for us, where we position ourselves and where we're seen in our marketplace, brand protection is vital. And we've seen in the UK an influx of cheaper products in marketplaces, etc., trying to erode certain brands and certain levels. Where we're going to a new territory, and we're as a brand, Focus SB are creating a niche marketplace for ourselves with our level of product. IP protection, and specifically on designs, brand name, trademarks, is very, very important. We understand that we have to protect it. We understand that the brand's core value is around that name.
And you even have a Chinese brand.
We even have our Chinese logos, our Chinese designs, and our Chinese trademarks all protected as well.
Can you explain a little bit of the brand you have, the concept?
So yeah, so we created
Chinese one.
Yeah, so we engaged with a marketing agency to create a brand logo based on our UK logo that was familiar for the Chinese culture. So we looked at the UK as a general and said, okay, we're a historic brand in the UK of a manufacturing base and history for UK. So how do we tailor the logo to the Chinese audience? And one of the things we came up with is that part of the logo contains SB at the end of that. So we worked with a marketing agency to change the B to like a pipe. And the reason we changed it to a pipe was that it's instantly recognizable with Sherlock Holmes in the UK. And actually, when we've done some market testing for this logo, the Chinese people that we sat down with instantly said, "Oh, it looks like Sherlock Holmes. It's a British brand." So we knew that we were being recognised instantly from that logo as a British brand. And
yes.
That is vitally important because our business model is built on that we manufacture in the UK and we ship from the UK. So having that brand recognition directly from a logo that we are British is vitally important.
Yes, I do like the logo very much. Well, now, so compared to 5 years ago, do you see China, the Chinese market is more important for you or less so?
I think long term, the Chinese market for us is vitally important. It's a diversification away from a traditional UK market. And the reasons for doing that is if you look at the Chinese economy over the past 20, 30 years, where it's grown very quickly, and look at where it is at the current moment, we only see that will grow for us and our business going forward. We also see that as we've put an amount of investment into that territory, and we're starting to see a lot of our target clients and our target marketing client, they have offices cross territory, so London, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, etc. Projects are getting specified, investment is going across territories. So for us, that's vitally important that we're seen in those different offices across those territories, so that the brand value can then and the brand product can then be specified across into those territories.
And so China is not just a growing market, but it's important for you as your global sort of portfolio.
It's important to us as a global portfolio area for us. It's important to us as we look at the wider picture of the global economy and where the target clients are based.
And so do you still have challenges that that you encounter in doing business in China, and what are your biggest challenges next year? I guess apart from the travel restriction.
I think you hit the nail on the head. The largest obstacle at the moment is travel.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's been so important that we've had people on the ground as well. There's the, even in these times where traveling for us is difficult, they are still there in territory and can still see clients. Also, our product are very touchy-feely products, so you have to pick them up, look at them very closely, etc. And with our target clients, like to do that. So it's important to have that base on the ground to be able to visit people. So travel is obviously one major element. The second major element is the slowdown in the Chinese construction sector and the uncertainty around that. That's caused a number of worries for us. However, that also presents opportunities at the same time, and you tend to see where construction of new property may slow down, you start to see refurbishment, etc. So it presents new opportunities and new potential clients for us.
That sounds good. So if you had a chance to start again, what would you have done differently?
That's a very interesting question. I think if we had the chance to start again, we would probably look at which cities we concentrated on. So we've been very successful in concentrating on where our main office is in Shanghai and in Shenzhen, Guangzhou, etc., around that Greater Bay Area as well. But I also think, on reflection, there's also opportunities in second-tier cities in China. And I think it's a good bit of advice to anybody going in is that you don't necessarily have to concentrate on the tier 1 cities. The tier 2 cities are also very large and have very large pockets of wealth, and that might be a piece of advice for effective learning.
And the tier 2 cities in China, we're talking about also, a few million people, so they're not small.
No, they're not small. And it's a learning advice that we learned from a very famous British brand that went there for the Beijing and Shanghai with the gold pit, but very, very quickly learned that they could actually do very well out of 2 or 3 tier 2 cities, because there was less competition for their brand there.
Exactly. So what other advice you give to those newbies who are still looking to enter into the Chinese market?
China seems very scary to a lot of people and a lot of organizations to take that step. Actually, if you listen to the advice and listen to how other people have done it, it can allay a lot of those fears and make it a lot simpler. So my real main advice was go talk to people, understand the culture, understand what will be required to put in to go before you go, and then obviously when you can't do it at this present moment, when it opens up, go see for yourself.
Excellent. Yeah,
there's nothing better than actually going and physically being on the ground, sitting in front of people, talking to people, and build the relationship. That's the key side.
That's exactly why we're doing this interview, is to hear your story. You made it and you're very successful in what you have done, and then that would help some new businesses owners who are looking to do business, trying to help them overcome that fear, and also to learn what's the best practices. And we always suggest the clients to start with research and find the right partner, understand the culture, localize your brand, and pay attention to communication. And you've done all of this. So that's no wonder why Focus SB is doing well in China as well.
But you also have to, I think another key piece of advice for any business looking going there and take it, you have to have the right person from your organization that's going to go. And what I mean by that is if you're going to spend a lot of time there, and it's intrinsically part of the process, you have to have the person that's willing to go and do that. It is very excited by doing that, if you like, or wants to experience that. Getting the buy-in from your own staff to do the project is vital, and finding the right person to do that is vital as well.
So have an internal champion first, right? Then typically whoever has got that, sort of foresight and vision, and then get other people excited as well. And so, because as we talked earlier, it's not just one person, it needs the whole team to be able to understand the potential and how to do business in China, and in order to, come up with the right solution for the customers.
Exactly. We've taken a number of our members of our team to China to experience the Chinese culture, to understand the Chinese clients' unique requirements, and to build relationships with the team there. And conversely, we've brought members of our Chinese distributors team into our factory as well, allowed them to interact with people at different levels of the organization as well. It's not necessarily only the top level that has to interact with them. And that way, you at an organization level, you get a better buy-in to the Chinese market.
So again, that comes down to be the personal relationship and bonding, and then to be able to have that guanxi, not just between individuals, but also between the two organizations, so that, that means even if one person moves on to another job, the company can still carry on to have the good relationship.
Yeah, and never be. Yeah, that's a very important piece of advice. Never be reliant on just one person having a relationship. That's never a good place to be in for a business, and you should make sure that there's always another channel for relationship, or other people that have that relationship. Yeah, one thing I would add is that a lot of people are scared of the language differences with the Chinese. When we decided that we was going to make the journey into China, myself personally enrolled in a Chinese course at a local university, a 12-week beginner course into introduction to Chinese, learning just to say the basic words, so please, thank you, and then continue down how to order food. And what that does, it gives you a great understanding when you go to China of saying ni hao, saying ni hao ma, si si, etc., so that actually you're greeting them on their terms, and you can also understand then some of the conversation that's going on between the Chinese individuals. That gives you a greater footing if you can speak to the individual and speak a little bit in their language.
Yeah, I bet you get big smiles and excited to say, wow.
Yeah, and as your brand develops and as you spend more time in China, you'll naturally pick up more words and phrases, etc. And if you spend enough time there, you'll pick up certain elements of language. So personally, on that development stage, I now give seminars when I visit China. And I can stand there and introduce myself and introduce the brand in Chinese. And although my Chinese is no...
But that's important that you just make that effort. And also people can understand that.
Yeah, people can understand that. They can then see that you're making the effort.
Yeah, exactly. And also, it also makes it more interesting for you, I would think, as well.
It makes it more interesting for me as an individual and our other team members that have done similar. It also it enriches you as a person when you're going there, and really sort of opens your mind to different things and different culture and the cultural differences, and it helps with that understanding the culture a lot more as well.
Are you still learning?
I learn every day.
I'm practicing. By the way, on WeChat, there's a translation function.
Yes, it's very useful. I mean, the number of WeChat groups, obviously, I find it quite easy to pick up the Romanized version of Pinyin. Understanding the characters is maybe a small subset I can understand. So having that easily translatable function in WeChat is very important to us, because then you can understand the context of some of the conversations, comments that are coming. It allows you to interject.
Exactly. So you don't have to understand 100%, but just understand what's been talked, and then being able to express your own views in that. It must help you to have, to be more embedded in that conversation, the team.
Yeah, and once I find once you learn the basics of the language, if you're sitting there with a meeting with a client and you can interject in with even a couple of words of Chinese, it really does help. It does help build that relationship side. In that, then they're more. I find that people are more interested in talking to you and trying to interact with you, to either speak English back or to speak Chinese to you, and encourages that interaction.
I did not see that you have a Chinese name. I assume you have one.
My Chinese name, Duncan, translates directly to Duncan.
Okay.
That's a direct translation.
Well, you know that you can actually do a proper Chinese translation with a surname and first name translated. In fact, our digital platform, Crayfish, has got that. I think we have a Chinese translation for name. I believe so. And some of our clients have done that too. So you, instead of like Duncan into Duncan, you could have Ray, for example. You can have a Chinese character that represents Ray, which could, in Chinese, Ray, depending on what character, one of the character Ray actually means lucky, very auspicious. So you could have Ray Duncan, and then you could then choose the nice characters that represents your character. And maybe that's something you could consider doing that exercise with your Chinese teacher or Chinese colleagues. It just gives people more things to talk about as well when you first meet people.
Yeah, there's an example, exact example we touched on earlier about learning new things, learning the culture, etc. And I didn't know this until you've just mentioned. So it's learning for me just by talking to yourself.
Great, yeah, because Chinese name typically have 3 characters. So the first is a surname, and then you have a middle name and a first name, and so that if you think about your Chinese colleague, typically they have 3 or 2 characters. So you could give yourself the same way, the structure, surname first and first name. Yeah.
Yeah.
So next time when we speak, I hope to have tell me your Chinese name.
That's a challenge for me. I'll accept that challenge.
Exactly. So when you next time do your self-introduction, you could do, my name is in Chinese. And then everyone would be smiling.
Yeah, so Daja Hao, Wu Xiao, and then my Chinese name.
Exactly. Yeah. Great, excellent. And thank you so much, Duncan. I think we have touched on a lot of really useful advice, and the fact that you had done all those and proved it worked. It's really, really fascinating. And yeah. So I hope that you are able to make the next trip to China in the spring, and I hope too.
Me too. Yeah. Hopefully we'll get back there maybe Q2 next year, and hopefully we can continue to enhance the face-to-face side of the relationships as well.
Perfect. Thank you.